Bizarre Brain Comics. I am your mystery hero, here to defend the weak, protect the free from the evils of the world. I'm here to talk with you about this comic. The 1984 Marvel Comics generic comic book #1. Yes. Oh, and get a load. You're going to see my secret identity. Ha ha! You never would have guessed, would you? But since I need to be able to see, yes. Hard to believe, but in 1984, Marvel Comics produced, it was a one-shot, the generic comic book #1. And this is what it looked like. All white. About that time, there was a kind of a generic craze going around, generic products. You could go to the grocery store, they probably had some beforehand, but this is about the time it's kind of hit its peak. There were many grocery stores had an entire aisle of nothing but generic products. Generic tuna. I used to love the generic chili. I did most of my shopping in that aisle because I was poor, still poor, but not that poor. And then they just kind of fizzled out, and what was the generics? It was just rolled over into the house brands for the major grocery store chains. And also at that time, there was a bunch of books. It was either Ace or Daw. I cannot remember, and I haven't been able to find them. They had a whole bunch of generic books. They had generic romance, they had a generic science fiction, they had a generic western, they had a generic fantasy, and they may have had more that I don't remember. And they were just nothing but the basic tropes of that were being published at that time in these particular genres. And so Marvel Comics produced a one shot of the generic comic book, and as you saw, plain white cover with no illustration at all. So this was Marvel Comics generic comic book #1, and it was a one shot, as I said, and it was just that generic plain white cover and no cover illustration. Marvel's crazy magazine editor, Larry Hama, he concocted the issue. Now, just I guess the year before, Crazy had ceased publication. Now, Crazy was the Marvel's version of Mad Magazine, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. Had a lot of the creators had moved over from Mad to Crazy, and he concocted the issue. He brought in the writer Steve Skeats, who wrote it, and I don't know who drew it. There's no credits, and I haven't been able to find it. Since Larry Hama was also an artist, maybe he drew it himself. I don't know. It's a rather generic stylization and style. I can't identify the artist. It doesn't look familiar to me. But of course, that may have very well been the intention. Steve Skeats, he would later go on to write the Spider Ham. That's Spider Ham humor title. Yes, if you've never read Spider Ham, but you've seen the uh, Into the Spider Verse, which is a great movie by the way. Um, you know who I'm talking about. And the book pokes fun at comics in general, and especially the conventions of the superhero genre. And as I said, I could find no credits, and it's completely unrecognizable. I'm not saying it's bad. I just said I didn't recognize it. It was a fun story. Now, Larry Hama, who was the editor, he's an Asian American writer, artist, actor, and musician. And after a hitch in the Army during the Vietnam era, he was an actor with minor roles on MASH and Saturday Night Live, and I guess he even did a Broadway play. But that wasn't his calling. He just fell into that, I guess. He became a writer and editor for Marvel Comics, doing G.I. Joe and the Hasbro toy line, and others. He co-created Bucky O'Hare, which you may or may not recognize now. It was must have been 30 years ago, nearly 30 years ago. And there's an animated series of it, which was based on the comic book character done by Marvel. And they even had a toy line. I think that only lasted at most 2 seasons, but probably just 1 season of the animated series. And he went on to do a lot of work for both Marvel and DC, as well as Atlas and Continuity Comics. And Steve Skeats, who wrote the thing, apparently it was uncredited, so I had to look for it. He's an American writer, and in 1965, he briefly became Stan Lee's assistant editor. But I guess he wasn't good at it, and he lost his job within just a few weeks. But he managed to wrangle that into working for Tower Comics, who published a few things. Where I live, we didn't get those. But they did publish the Thunder Agents, by Wallywood's Thunder Agents. And did work for Charlton, DC, Gold Key, and Warren horror magazines. And he was given control of writing for Charlton, given control of the writing for Charlton's The Many Ghosts of Dr. Graves. I've probably got a few of those. And he wrote the story The Poster Plague, which inspired the title Plop for DC. And of course, he went on to do a whole bunch of other things. Looks like my fire went out. I don't have laser eyes to reignite it. Let's go take a look at this comic, shall we?
Hulk smash!
Yep, here we go. Generic comic book. As you can see, plain white. And here it said generic comic book, type superhero, action adventure. This comic contains one neurotic superhero type with a variety of personal problems, one bad guy bent on world domination through arcane means, assorted villainous henchpeople, the hero's nefarious employer, pathetic family, and well-endowed girlfriend. A plot containing a conflict, a subplot, a resolution, a plot twist, and as many fights as it takes to fill up the rest of the pages. And this, I don't know if you know, that means it says Marvel No Frills. But this means it was a comic shop direct. It didn't go to like newsstands or and the like. Here's the splash page. No credits whatsoever. A superhero. Yes, that's right. He's just a superhero. He's never given a name. Neither is the villain, other than just being called a villain. And even the hero's alternate identity isn't given a name. You can't get more generic than that. See here, first page. His girlfriend's kissing him goodbye. She's going on a bus. See her mother, who's sick. Sees her off. Boom. And there it goes. About, you can see, normal, your basic 3-tier, usual 6-page, 6-panel layout. But here in both of these pages, he had more than 3 panels. Here we see him, and after seeing his girlfriend off, he stops by the hospital to see his sick brother who is in a coma. And we found out his brother's name is Bobby. And that's about it. We'll only catch a couple other names in the story. Then on the way home, he's mugged. So he gets home and he's not happy with himself. He's got to go to work in the morning. Now, there's nothing bad about any of this artwork. I mean, really, nothing really bad. It has decent backgrounds. Just maybe a bit loose. Not bad. And even shows he's using good perspective. He probably could have gotten away with using minimal perspective. Well, I think in some ways he did. When I say he, I mean the artist. And which, as I said before, I have no idea who it was. Maybe Larry Hama did it himself. I don't know. The Marvel Comics tryout book. I got one of those. Or I should say I had one of those. Okay, he's all pissed at himself. And here he shows he has a collection of glow-in-the-dark items. What is it? I'd like to pick each and every one of them up by the scruff of his neck and smash it. Now, this was his 3 Mile Island snow globe. Glow-in-the-dark snow globe. The glow-in-the-dark vampire teeth, the radium dial watch, the snow globe, a monster, probably looks like a Hulk figure. And he smashed it. And his mother's upset because he lives with his parents. And he goes to bed. And he said, "The prize of my collection, a 3 Mile Island paperweight. I could turn upside down now and then turn it back up and watch I could watch the fake snow swirl all around those little towers. I would have to take my anger out on that." And click. Purely black screen. Black panel, rather. But here, over in the corner, you see everything that's glowing in the dark. Everything's glowing in the dark. He's decided he was going to wait until the morning to clean up the mess he'd made. And that snow globe. He's sleeping, and then pop. What's that? He starts hearing these noises. Pop, pop, pop. Now, this is downright silly, but it's intended to be. The whole thing is silly. It's a parody. Pop, pop, pop. Turns on, wakes him up. He turns on the light. Good grief! Good grief! His hair has turned white, and he's suddenly got muscles from the exposure. Because all this time, see. And so what? What if it's pitch black over here in the other corner where his bed sits? That hardly changes the fact that our hero has been living with these objects for nearly 19 years, and they have already done a job on him. To be specific, a change has been inaugurated, a transformation which now suddenly is increased in speed tenfold thanks to the particles let loose when he smashed his favorite paperweight. I got to tell you, radium can be dangerous in fairly large quantities or dosed internally. But, and they don't care, it doesn't matter. But I know from my Navy experience that radium is, especially this, it's so low level, it's almost undetectable. But it also shows that when we were on ship, we could not wear radium dial wristwatches because, especially on the submarine tender. Yes, I was on a submarine carrying nuclear weapons, but on the submarine tender, they really weren't allowed because, and this has actually happened. This is why. If the watch accidentally got damaged, it would set off the radiological alarms on the ship, which shows you how sensitive those machines were, because it's so low level. It wasn't a danger. Now, to the ladies, especially in the 40s, who painted that radium on those watch dials and stuff in the 40s and 50s, it was dangerous because they were constant exposure to it, and they had a tendency to put the brush that they painted it on with in their mouth to get a nice fine point to paint that on there, and they would get radium on their faces and in their mouths, and it caused severe health problems for a lot of those young ladies back then. Okay, here he is next morning. His parents are so preoccupied they don't even notice. And then he discovers, wow, he's got supervision. He can see that box clear from over here. So he's running late, so he has to rush off, accidentally tears the door off. Now the storytelling, visual storytelling, nice. An awful lot of thought balloons. And this panel probably could have been done a little better to show him ripping it off, because I have difficulty telling without the balloon telling me so that he had torn that door off the hinges. And he's rushing for the bus. Very nicely drawn bus. Kind of plain. It's fine. Totally fine. Totally accurate. And he's about to miss a bus, so he takes off and he rushes to the bus. He catches up with the bus. So he knows he's got super speed. Well, a little bit of speed. Fast enough to catch the bus. And in the process, he rips out his suit because of his big muscles. He gets on the bus. Goes to work. Gets along fine with his boss. Has an office bully who teases him. He'd really like to clean his clock. And then the hot chick who teases him another way. The hot chick who works in the office. Now, these are pretty nice. That's panels. Both of those are pretty nice faces. They're rather generic, going with the theme. They're not bad at all. See, the artwork here is really, for the most part, is not bad. And he gets on the phone, looks in the phone book, finds a place to buy a superhero suit. Then we cut to where the origin of the villain in his crappy little apartment building. The landlord goes up to threaten him. Boop. And then we see the villain for the first time. What is it you want, Mr. Parker? I'm sure that's a drop. What? All I want is, yes, speak up. Please forgive me. Is all right? Right if I leave now? Yes, of course. So his helmet gives him the power to destroy his opponent's confidence, and he's kind of goofy looking fella. Then we see the hero where he's trying to buy a superhero suit, but he has no money, or very little money, and he buys the plainest suit they've got. So he takes it home, puts it on, and slips out at night. Thinks he's going to go on patrol. Well, he can leap from rooftop to rooftop. Bing, bing. That's intentional or not. I think that is from an paying homage to an early Superman panel, because it looks that familiar. And he sees some muggers. They're not the same ones that he met, but he wishes they were. Jumps down, beats the crap out of the mugger, saves the girl. Boom, boom. Relatively dynamic. Not as dynamic as it could be, but that doesn't matter. Tells the story. Boom. But somebody fights back, and then our villain pops up. Ha! What are the chances? Because it does specify that this is in New York. What are the chances that a brand new hero going out on patrol happens to run into a brand new villain out to do his on a test run, and he gives his. So now it makes me think, this whole page makes me think there may be more than one artist, because the style is slightly different, or maybe it was just a rush job. I don't know, but that figure is totally different here too, especially that shoulder connected to that. It's just not right. It's just not right. You can see here that arm. I suspect it was just a rush job, and they didn't care that it looked, because hey, he was a cartoonist doing a humor thing, so he made it more humorous. Here they are confronting each other, and his helmet goes gonzo, and then our hero, loses all self-confidence, and the villain just pounds him into the dirt. So he's not completely invulnerable. After a little bit, he wakes up and chastises himself, goes home just in time for the alarm clock to go off. So there, he didn't get any sleep except when he was unconscious. Goes to work, regular work day. Looks like possibly a little different ink job here, because the way that inking on his hair suddenly indicates that he would have darker hair. And he has an idea, doing something, and using an old football helmet, puts that on, and then he goes out again, runs into some more the muggers and the villain again. Now this panel here, it's tighter, and I would guess that this face and this face here are probably either done from photo reference, or maybe in addition to photo reference, or somebody that the artist knows and just decided he's going to stick them in there, because those are two of the two tightest faces in the whole book. And so he proceeds to beat the crap out of all the bad guys. Then there's the main villain. I think it was a different inker here. And they fight, and he defeats. Come on, yeah, there it goes. Defeats the villain, and turns out he had just took an old Walkman and recorded a tape of telling himself, "You can do it. You can defeat this guy," over and over and over again. And that counteracted the villain's helmet. So he grabs the guy's helmet. As the cops show up, don't know why the cops were called. You know how they knew, but somebody must have called. Next day, feels good about himself. Goes in and sees some. Turns out there are some feds there in the office. Says, "Sure wish I could tell something." Say, like the boss. Hey, say, who are those guys over there? Never saw them around here before. They almost look like cops. Yes, that's probably just what they are. here to assure the boss that the crooks are in the clink. I forgot to mention, yeah, that the crooks happen to be breaking into his office where he works. The crooks are in the clink, and the loot has been recovered. We have something very important to tell you, sir. And then see, it's about that gang that we pulled in last night. Amazing! I never noticed this before. Besides super sight, if I concentrate, I also have super hearing. I can hear every word spoken in there. Once we pulled them in, anyway, it turns out that the boss was behind it all, had for some kind of corruption, and he had them break in to steal whatever evidence or something along those lines. Then he's horrified because the office bully is going to become the big boss, and he's never going to get the promotion that he was expecting. Crap. Now comes the neurosis. So now I'll never be able to pay for that treatment for poor Bobby. Is this what being a superhero is all about? Is this the type of reality I'll have to put up with from now on? The end. In the thing, we heard the name of the bully. I think we heard the name of the boss, but I forgot. Or saw the name anyway. Never had a name for the superhero character or his alter ego. Boom. It's a fun little book. I'm glad I like it. I'm glad I got it. I think I've got a couple copies of it because I thought I had mislaid my original copy and then found it later. You want to add one to your personal collection or something, you can just probably find one in the dollar bins at some of the comic shops. And that's all she wrote. But remember, comics are art.